combo was
over,
broken.
is it?
It's over. It's over.
Okay, that's good.
Look at him. I now, you know what? Gerald, just start. Just start. Don't give him the cue. Don't give him the cue. Look at him. Look at Andy.
This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Gerald.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Anais.
This week, sorry, we're a little giddy. We're a bit later. We've been talking about stuff.
Yeah, there's a big gap now between when we record live and when we put it out audio on the podcast feed, but we're recording this 1 week after what happened in DC on January 6th, 2021. So we just talked about that for 20 minutes, but now we're ready to talk about a short story.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, you know what, though? I do have a question for Gerald now that we're on the air.
No.
Ooh,
nope.
How exciting.
Gerald, do you know what a pirate's favorite letter is?
It's tempting to say R.
But it's not. It's the C.
Oh my God.
Hey, what do we read this week?
Okay, the reason Andy made that joke is because remember, this is audio, so only people who watch us live know why that.
Right, that's a special joke for them.
It's a joke for them. Gerald's name tag on live right now is R. Gerald.
Because of sea shanties. See, I know these things because I'm down with the kids on TikTok. TikToker.
Right. Culture and sea shanties.
Gerald's and sea shanties. And so is my friend Gabriel, who commented on last week's episode live. He also is into it. So I was kind of hoping he'd be here so you could talk about sea shanties. And the story.
I don't know anything about them, but it's just it's a thing on TikTok.
All right.
Which is a social media thing for the kids. You probably wouldn't know. This week we have been reading Paper Tiger by Lindsay Kennedy from the wonderful Carve magazine, this time the fall or autumn 2020 edition. We follow Nina and the unnamed Nina's mother to the circus. Nina knows a lot about animals because she has thoroughly read Petrograd's Illustrated History of the Animal Kingdom. She loves animals and knows many facts about each of them, but there's one that she doesn't love, the tiger. So what does her mother do? She takes Nina to join the queue to have a picture taken with the circus's tiger. That's a stupid thing to do. Poor Nina's anxiety is through the roof, but after some interesting exchanges with other people, Nina eventually sits down with a tame tiger, and she has an experience similar to the woman in last week's story, The Hunter's Wife, only this was with a live animal. She sees the poor tiger's history from being captured in the wild, being mistreated by the circus, until it has come to accept its current life. Nina feels sorry for it. And then a great wind comes, for some reason, and takes Nina and the tiger away to roam free, and the other people are scattered around for miles. And then the reporter who's telling the story goes to see the mother again and finds Petrograd's Illustrated History of the Animal Kingdom. But the section on the tiger has been replaced with a completely new one, showing a tiger and a young girl romping through the dense green forest. The end.
Okay.
So,
Andy, what did you think of the story?
Well, so overall, top level, I thought it was fun and I liked it. The narrator shift in the middle, it was why are we doing that? Why are we going from third person close on Nina to this journalist now in the first person? That's weird. Who's this journalist? I don't know. It's just the narrator just introduces themselves randomly in the second act as a journalist. Yeah, it's pretty good. I liked it a lot. I liked following Nina. I thought it was very clever and all the little kid interactions and everything. Yeah. It was sweet and good, and the tiger stuff was good. Ending got a little, I don't know. Not even the wind. I'm on board with magic wind blows all the animals back to safe place. But yeah, I don't know. The journalist part is weird.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Gerald?
Yeah. And I liked it. When I started reading it, I thought, I don't know if I'm going to like it, but I really enjoyed it, and it rattled along at a fair old pace. As Andy says, loved the interactions, loved a little bit of backstory with Nina, and the ending felt like this Lindsay Kennedy. I don't know if it's a male or a female. It felt like they thought, oh, I know, I'll make it into a magical realism thing, and I'll bolt on this wind and this. So it seemed to there was no magical realism anywhere until the wind came and took them off, and then, as Andy says, the narrator came and it was a journalist all along, sort of thing, telling the story. I don't. So I didn't really understand that. I was hoping that we'd have some intelligent people on the podcast who could explain the magic wind.
Okay, I'll try.
Yeah,
I will try.
Good.
Because it doesn't bother me as much, I should say. So
Right,
I could probably defend it. Yeah.
I want to specifically point out it's not the magic wind that bothers me, but the journalist coming up out of nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on board with the magic
clear.
wind of freedom born from their roars and yells.
Yeah.
You said that.
I love that. I mean, the journalist thing didn't bother me. And I would argue that there is magical realism before the wind because it was funny. As I'm reading the story, I'm trying to place it in time because circuses, that's not really happening these days as much, right? So I'm like, is this like a 50s, 60s thing? Are we going back a bit? Like, how far back are we going? And then the little boy is touching the tiger, physically touching an adult tiger. I'm like, this is the 1880s. This is some crazy time, right? But then there's a mention of email and internet. I'm like, okay, there is no overlap between small child touches an adult tiger and email. Like, that is not a timeline that exists in our world. Like, at least not in the US, right? Like, this is seems very American centric. Like, no. So I would say the magical realism there is that a child touched an adult tiger in the same era as email. All right, that doesn't happen.
Okay. Good point.
I was like, wait a minute. That threw me in for a loop. No, when she said that the kid touched the tiger, like, really, my mind went, what? Where are we?
When I read that first bit, I was like, oh, like through the cage? Through the cage that the tiger said?
That's dangerous. Don't do that. He put his arm around his neck. What? These people are crazy.
Yeah.
The description did not mention a cage, did it?
It's the 1800s. It has to be. They would have done shit like that then. Anyway.
I thought it was very old because they caught 2 buses and walked 3 miles to the and I thought, why don't you get an Uber or something? And of course email's been around for a number of years now. What, over 20 years, 25 years?
Yeah,
right.
but
still.
So that everyone in line de facto had an email, that was their primary distribution method. Like,
you assume everyone has an email, and you have the digital camera technology to the point where it goes from whatever is taking the picture, a phone, digital camera, whatever, to computer. You can see it quickly, and you know what I mean? Like, that whole flow, that's not as old as email. So, yeah. No, it's definitely modern technology and ancient tiger touching. So that's already magical.
Is that a real book? I meant to look it up. I didn't get a chance.
Oh, yeah. I also meant to look it up.
We've all been weird this morning. We were all like, our brains are just like maybe it's got to be the stars. It's got to be astrology. Like, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to remember enough details, but they're starting to come to me now. I don't think it's real, though. I don't think it's real. I was going to look it up just in case, but my instinct says
Andy's looking it up now. I can tell.
There are illustrated books.
Right.
Petrograd is part of it.
Petrograds.
Yeah, the Petrograd, I think, is made up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But there are like illustrated books. I was thinking of zoo books. Andy, did you have zoo books?
Yeah, zoo books.
Yeah, okay. That was our version. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So I really liked the story. I had no problem with the shift to the journalist. I thought it wasn't an abrupt shift, but I thought it was handled adroitly. We've had stuff like that in this podcast before, where there's a sudden POV shift. And like, the only thing that makes it weird is like, how does a journalist have all the intimate details of like the play-by-play of how things went down? But it doesn't matter in a story this magical that is not about like the rigors of journalism anyway, right? Like that's something you forgive for the sake of enjoying the story, or I forgive anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's what threw me. It was such a like omniscient third, right? Like, or not omniscient, but like so close to Nina's thought process. Like, we knew how she felt in the history of her attic living and right.
Exactly. Like, we knew all the things. how she was feeling about adults who were cowardly, right? Like she's very courageous. There's a lot of themes here about sort of like the courage to speak. That's like my one critique though, is she'll like the author's painting everything beautifully and then stops to tell you the theme, right? Like that's the only thing I didn't like. She's like, her mother learned that if you don't use your voice, you'll lose it. I'm like, okay, like you stop to like give me like this like aphorism. That's not a huge critique. It doesn't really like dock anything for me. It just sort of like brought me out. Like I felt the author in that moment when I had been sucked through, and I'm like, oh, here it is. Right. And maybe that's just because I'm always reading analytically because I read short stories every week for the show to analyze it. But I'm like on a track. I'm enjoying the story. I'm like, oh, there's the author. I just saw her. Right. So that just sort of happened to me in a couple places. Yeah. And also happened to me at the end when it was the line about strong emotions, rage, love, and grief creating things. I was like, oh, there she is again. Right. Like it was just like in a way where it's like I get yanked out a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
good, though.
It was good.
It's a good little story.
Yeah.
For me, there was something sort of like biblical about it, but I feel like I'm in uncharted territory as a lapsed bad Catholic. So maybe Auntie can help here a little bit more since you did more of that stuff. But like, there's,
Does that make me a lapsed good Catholic?
Yeah, like you're lapsed, but like you did more of the rigorous stuff. Did you do your confirmation? I stopped at communion.
Yeah,
like I stopped
I did confirmation.
Right, like you went through like the teen years and all the things. So you might have more recent memories. Right.
I also minored in theology at a Jesuit university.
Exactly. Yes, you might. All of that. So you know things. So there's like some biblical qualities here in my reading, but I don't know enough. This is why I'm hoping you can tease it out. So I'll just tell you where like the clues are for me, and maybe that'll like spark something for you. Wind is a big deal. Right? Big forces of nature that have like a cleansing property. This is like a reverse Noah's Ark for me. Instead of water, it's air. And instead of cleansing the earth so that like the animals can repopulate it from zero, this is rapturing the good away from like this hellish earth. Like it's like, nope, we're just gonna take all the good out. And then the people who stay behind sort of get punished in line with their level of badness, right? The worst person dies. The next kind of worst person you meet almost dies but doesn't. And then there's like less and less damage as you get to more innocuous characters, which is interesting. But there's this thing about just sort of like courage, integrity, goodness, kindness coming through. And instead of wiping out the wicked, it just lifts the good from them. There's just kind of like biblical epicness about it.
Yeah. I mean, didn't someone get like lifted up on wind instead of dying, like Elijah or something? Right?
I don't know. You're the theology person.
Yes.
That's why I'm bringing it to you. I don't know the stories well enough. Just this little bit that I do know. I'm just like noticing, like there's some things here that I know will come back to biblical stories, but you might know it more intimately.
Oh
yeah.
Elijah. Yeah, chariot of fire appeared, and Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind.
Yeah. So when
right? Yeah, that kind of has a feel.
It just had that sort of feel for me. Righteousness via acts of nature almost always feel biblical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Punish the wicked and save the pure.
Right. And the reason I'm saying reverse Noah's Ark is because it's not cleansing the earth of the wicked to leave the pure behind. It's leave the wicked on earth, take the good out of it. And then that's why you have the wind lift them up out instead of the water flatten everything.
And it's a bit arbitrary, isn't it? Because there are some people who aren't, who are pretty pure but not quite as pure, but they just get left. So it's only the very, very pure people who get taken away.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Is that what happens?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the rapture. Hell yeah. Yeah. None of us are making it. Just so you know.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
As long as we know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but that's kind of, I don't know, like I was saying, like our brains are all weird today. Because I feel and the thing is, I don't know if this author is religious or not. I don't know anything about the author. This is her first published work. It says it at the top of Carve. But I think we can safely assume, since she lives in New York, she's living in Connecticut now, Western influence throughout her life, these things seep in whether or not you are religious, right? Like we all sort of know these stories and confront them in different works of literature and art. So I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I definitely see it. Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good.
So what did you, Gerald, since you're the one who's always going back to carve, and usually for certain voice, right? What did you think about the prose, the voice? Did it carry you along? Did it feel like a carve experience for you?
No, it didn't, because I think
Because it was good. Zing.
Oh, harsh.
Yeah. No,
Gosh.
please continue.
Yeah, I will. No, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it didn't have the sort of the usual carve template. It wasn't. It didn't feel like an MFA type. Not that there's anything wrong with MFAs, but it didn't feel like one of those stories, because up until the rapture or whatever it was happened, I think it was a really well written sequential story, and some interesting little back. But with Carve, sometimes I think you feel as you're reading it like you're being manipulated, that you're being, here's a thing and here's something else to that I'm doing because that's what I have to do, because that's them's the rules. So I think it was an interesting little story, really well written. I loved the language. I loved the rhythm of the writing. It's until those few bits where, as you said, where you feel that the author is saying, "Here's the theme," whoa, which wouldn't normally happen with a Carve story. I think that it would be more subtly done. So I really enjoyed the storytelling. I thought it was really good for a nearly 10,000 word story. Yeah, raced along.
Yeah, it did. I thought the pacing was pretty good. The only part where I was like, okay, is the back and forth with Patricia's mother, who sucks. Like, what a great drawing of just like somebody
mother who sucks.
Yeah, she's just the worst. Patricia's mom, who's just like, I didn't even understand what her problem is with Nina. Did she just not like that Nina is smarter than her clearly younger child, right? Like, my sense was Patricia's younger than Nina, that Nina's more precocious. Like, it was just weird. Like, she was oddly competitive with the kids. Like, what a weird thing to be.
No, that's a real thing.
It is, but like, you don't like those people.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I thought it was good because Patricia just said tiger. Just tiger. That's all she said. And I liked it when the trainer friend turned in their direction. Well, third time's a charm, isn't it? He said to Patricia's mother. So we get a lot from that. That you will have your picture taken with this live tiger.
Was it Patricia's mother? Yeah, it was Patricia's mother who just broke an arm, right? There was we got some detail, or was it the girl at the checkout counter? I forget what.
I think it was the checkout girl. Yeah, I just did a technological find and search operation here, and I don't think Patricia comes back up after the whirlwind.
She's not getting raptured.
Yeah. No. Well, no, but I think they just left.
Oh, they had left already?
Yeah.
Yeah, they walked away, didn't they? Because they couldn't take the photograph.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I thought she had an injury. But yeah, the dad with the kid, he had almost every bone smashed in his body.
Yeah, screw that guy.
Yeah, he was all right. I quite didn't mind him. He was...
Well, that's because you're British and you think it's appropriate to shout at people in queues.
Yeah. Doesn't everyone do that?
No.
No, I don't shout. I just mutter very loudly and tut a lot. We're masters of tutting.
Masters of tutting.
Well, like when you check out at the supermarket, and you know them, you know these people. They've got the bag and they're putting stuff in the bag, and then they pick something else up and think, oh, I don't want it to go in that bag. I want it to go in this bag over here, and then you get all through that, and they say, that's so much money, and they go, oh, and they look for the purse or this wallet, and you just, God's sake. Anyway.
So we know that if Gerald was there, all his bones would be smashed. Per the
Oh,
story.
absolutely. Definitely. I'd be a wreck.
Story.
Yeah.
Yelling at people in queues. Yeah. So, yeah, I really like the story. I feel like I really, it seemed really focused, right? About courage, integrity, the things that, because Nina's supposed to be sort of our North Star on what is appropriate, what's not, right? And she sort of really resents the way that adults sort of talk down to children, and the lack of courage that they have. She's very she reminds me of, what's the short story we read with the little girl whose father drowned in Japan? They moved back to California. Flashlight.
Yeah.
Okay.
She reminded me a little bit of the girl in Flashlight. Precocious and kind of hateful of adults, and hating her mom a bit. Not as intensely as the girl in Flashlight. That girl was like really upset, but it reminded me a little bit of her. Flashlight was good if people want to read that too. If you like precocious little girls who know more than they let on, but are still children. Yeah.
Yeah, but are still children. I think it's an important, kind of angle that doesn't always get done right.
Right. Like sometimes stories make the child too precocious and you don't believe it anymore. There's only one time where I was like, this child's real insightful, but we don't get a sense of her age, right? So if she's like closer to like 10, 11, 12, I believe it. If she's closer to like 7, I don't. But we don't know how old she is. And I think that was a good choice because she has some like really good insights. I'm just like, I don't know if a 7-year-old would know that, but a 10-year-old would.
Yeah, but also like everything that happens after she starts channeling the tiger. That doesn't have to.
Right. Yeah. The channeling the tiger descriptions were really cool. Actually, all the descriptions I thought were fairly well done. It really painted a picture. Yeah.
Man, it was a really neat turn of phrase about how her father left.
Yes. Oh, yes.
What was that?
Do you want to find it?
I don't know if I can. There's too many fathers.
I know.
There's a bit where. Yeah, it said when she went missing, and it said that she learned later that her parents, having worn themselves out with fighting. You think, oh, that's very nicely done. Yeah. And then just after that, and there's another fight.
Is it the one about fixing the lock? Where yes, where I found it. It's a long sentence. I'm trying to find the part where it starts. She remembers her mother saying that she couldn't possibly have known Nina would go to the attic, to which her father replied that a more attentive mother would have known such a thing, while Nina's mother retorted that an attentive father would have fixed the lock on the attic door. It was so clearly broken. Anyone in his right mind could see that.
Oh, the one I was thinking of, though, is when her father carried her to the bedroom, one of his last actions as her parent, for he would disappear from her life shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Just right.
And
like
didn't really need the second bit, though, did they? Of that sentence, because one of his last actions as a parent would have done, but yeah,
I don't know. Disappear from her life is very different from left her mother, or right. Like there's a lot of maybe her mother ran away with her. Like there's a lot of things that open. But what's important is she had a father and now she does not.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And disappearing from life is something tigers do.
And little girls.
Yeah.
I don't think he got raptured.
Well,
I think she's younger than 10 because she was holding a mother's hand. I don't think.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I sort of get 7.
Yeah, I'm thinking 7 from all of that too.
Yeah.
But there was one part where she was observing the way that the adults were talking to the little boy who was in line before Patricia. That I was just like, that's really insightful for 7-year-old, but maybe also she is ahead of everybody else. Like she is very precocious.
Yeah, she reads a lot. Well, she reads one book a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like where she felt entitled to the embellishment when she said, "I've read it 5 times." When she
That I believe. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay. So Anything else we want to say? We're at like sort of the 25-minute mark. It was really good. Like I thought it was, keep writing, Lindsay Kennedy. This was nice. I liked it. I liked the magical realism. I like the abrupt POV shift.
Yeah, really. I still don't. I don't know. Like, what if the story had just stopped with all the animals and the girl getting lifted up in a whirlwind? Like that. I don't know. That felt like a very good end. I don't know that I needed the other bit. And the other bit was weird enough. It didn't give me anything I needed more. Like, seeing them in the page illustrated was like cool, but I don't know that I needed that more than them all disappearing in a whirlwind. Like that's,
and I think also the account of the damage that was done to the equipment and the people. I think that was
the thing is though, like there was already that, like maybe it was still in that second part, but there was that real elegant line. I don't know. It was another. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the thing, right? There was this real elegant line that summed it up, and then she went on to explain it in more detail. I was like, yeah, stop.
Yeah, there was like two endings. I agree. Yeah.
Well, it was, something about the last time the trainer / friend was alive. Maybe that was already in the second part, but yeah, now I want to find the line.
Is it before there's a break? There's like a literal break with 3 dots.
Yeah, I think it's before the break.
Yeah, it's just the trainer friend before dying in the ambulance on the way to the hospital after it was all over had whispered. Emergency.
Slaughter the Holy Innocents too. Yes. There was some biblical stuff, huh?
There's biblical stuff later because then the journalist also says that the insurance companies write it off as an act of God.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
See, okay. And that's all coming back.
I didn't pull it all out at once.
I know. I just read it yesterday, and then I didn't get enough sleep yesterday, and I was like, I'm forgetting some key details, and I should have taken notes, but I was reading on my tablet, curled up with tea. You know, you get lazy. And then, there's
Holy Innocents. That's a pretty.
Yep, the Holy Innocents, Herod, and an act of God. Yeah, there's like real biblical stuff in here.
Oh man, can I just say? I finally watched Jesus Christ Superstar the other day that I had seen in my youth but never really watched. Oh man, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Herod's fits are great.
No, I haven't seen it.
Check it out. I think it's on Amazon or something. I don't know.
But yeah, it could have ended with Nina shrieking with the sword of rage that the Holy Innocents must have displayed when Herod's soldiers arrived to slaughter them.
Right.
You could end the story there. And she knows that because there's 3 dots before you go into the next section.
Right. And the trainer friend before dying in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, right? So like much before anything actually happened to him, we already know, and then he dies. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I will. Yeah. There is one thing about the very, very last paragraph that I think it felt a little bit like trying to fit a whole other theme or a whole other idea into the same short story. And then maybe it wasn't given enough time. This idea that grief and love as strong emotions can create, it just felt weird to have it come from the mother who had been so pathetic, right? Like all of a sudden now she's magical too, but she had been described as pathetic throughout the entire story.
And even throughout most of that second half.
Right. Like she's just pathetic. And now she's creating through her grief in a way that's like, there's more to explore here. So that just felt very abrupt. Like it felt like there's a whole other theme being explored. Wasn't given enough time. Be interesting. Maybe that's like a separate short story. I don't know. Maybe it's
right.
What's the thing with the second wind, as it were? After that, when he's finished reading the book.
Yeah, that was confusing. Like the next wind, because it was a righteous holy wind that Nina was bringing. The mom's not bringing a righteous or holy wind here. So where's this coming from? Or is it Nina? Because she's looking up. She's looking up at the journalist who discovered her in the book. So is it Nina bringing the wind again? And it's just a reference to that power.
Right. Mildly indignant at being disturbed.
Right. So she's bringing, exactly. She's getting angry again. So she's bringing the wind.
Yes. She did. Their faces turned towards me.
Everything after the break feels like the stub of a second story. It's not.
I agree with that. Yeah. And it doesn't make the story bad. It just it's like an extra thing that.
Right. The story was complete at the break.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
We can go along with that.
Okay. Are we ready to rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
For those who
Go.
are watching this, we've been getting like new listeners over the past like couple of months. We rate from 1 to 6. We're really it's sort of become is like 5's a great story, solid, and then 6 is like scream from the rooftops, tell everybody about it. That's kind of what it's become over time.
Yeah. It's like turning the volume up to 11, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's the same sort of thing,
exactly. Yeah.
except it's 6.
Except just 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a 5 for
Really
me too.
enjoyed reading it. Yeah.
It's also a 5 for me.
Look at that.
Yeah. It was really good. It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It was really good.
It wasn't great.
But wasn't quite.
No, it was great. No.
Well, right, yeah.
It wasn't for
Right,
us.
like I'll give a 3 to a story that's good. Just
Right.
to also be clear too. If it's like fine, that's a 3. So
Right.
5 is actually great, but not ecstatic.
Pretty much, exactly.
Right,
But I feel like
transported to another realm.
right.
in a
But I feel like
whirlwind.
the author will eventually write a 6 for one of us.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. And we rarely give 6s across the board. The last time that happened, I think, was Freyr, Tommy Orange.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a good story, huh? Also, I feel like this is like the second time in 3 weeks we've referenced Freyr.
Because I recently re-listened to it.
That's right.
And I was like,
why
wait a
it's
minute. Yeah. And I was like, I forgot that this, like, I knew it was good and I had remembered stuff, but I had forgotten some little details where I was just like how erotic the handshake was.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Moving on.
And that toast singing.
But we also reference Flashlight on this story. So if you want to read something that's got some resonance with this, not quite. Not magical.
And less erotic.
And Hunter's
Less
Wife
erotic.
also. We mentioned the old getting in touch with animals type thing.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah, touching an animal and then seeing the animal experience. It is like Hunter's Wife.
Also, we like the Hunter's Wife.
Very good. Did we give 6s across the board on that one?
I don't know if
think
it
we
was
might have done that.
We're having a good run.
Yeah.
Yes, we've found some good stories recently.
Yeah, because when we don't like a story, we're pretty rough. All right.
Well, Andy is.
Yeah. Mandatory Carry, Caleb March. It's another one I recently listened to because we were editing
Oh,
it.
wow. Yeah. What a dumb
You were
story.
vicious. You were vicious. But I kept it in there.
Although I think it's called Mandatory Carry.
Yeah.
Is it?
I thought it was a wonderful island.
Tomato.
Yeah. Yeah, I kept your viciousness and I kept me going, oof, after each one.
Really?
Yeah. All right.
Bad premise, or like good premise, poorly explored. I don't like that one.
All right. So,
Okay.
Andy.
Yeah.
What are we reading next week?
Well, next week we'll read a lovely story, I assume, by Rebecca Curtis titled Hansel and Gretel and Piece of Shit.
Okay.
Guess why I picked it?
The piece of shit.
The piece of shit.
Yeah. All right.
Such a boy.
Before you go, tell us about your daughter's precocious animal facts and your thoughts on the story in our Facebook group, The Literary Roadhouse Readers. And here's a podcast fact. The iTunes directory is instrumental in helping us attract new listeners. New reviews help us rank higher in the algorithm. So please leave a review to help others find us. And of course, podcasting, here's another fact, not free to produce. So if you enjoy our show about powerful emotions that create literal magic, then consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/literary roadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with the malicious trainer friend in your life. Until next time, read a good story.
Oh man, trainer friend was a really good line too.
That was a really good line.
Yeah.
And was it all? I think it was all the way through. It was trainer friend, all the way through.
Yeah, he tells the adults he's the tiger's trainer and tells the children that he's his friend.
Which Nina does not believe.
No.
Yes.
Correctly.
Quite right.